At the time in the early 90s, we had a homicide rate of almost 500 in 1 year. There were shootings every single day in my neighborhood. And I would ask my grandmother, Grandma, who are we at war with? And Grandma would say, just don't worry about it. Just go to school. But people were being killed for their shoes. Stray bullets would tear through buildings and hit innocent people. And these were people that I would walk to the store with, and I was just talking to them, and they would be gone. But my grandma would say, just don't worry about it, Chris. Just go to school. Violence caught back up with me. My brother and cousin were gunned down right behind my house. My brother was shot 7 times. They shot my cousin a couple times. He fell down. And then they stood over top of him, and they riddled his body with bullets. 17 bullets in the skull. My brother survived, but my cousin did not. And I remember when my mom came to see me, and she says, Chris, I'm sorry to tell you this, but Eric is gone. And I remember crying for hours. And then I became angry. Again, my grandmother said, Chris, just don't worry about it. Just go to school. My mom was dating a police officer that used to abuse her. So this police officer pops up one day. He takes out his service weapon, and he knocks me unconscious. And when I wake up, he's raping my mom. So then he takes his service weapon out, and he bashes her skull in. She lived, but she was never the same. I was never the same. Again, my grandmother would tell me, Chris, it's going to be okay. And it's like, how? I can't even pay attention in school. Don't worry about it, Chris. But I couldn't remove these images from my mind, and I started to have nightmares. But the people in my neighborhood said, come on, Chris, we got to stick together. All we got is us. But these same people came after me one night, and I ended up taking a person's life. So while in jail, awaiting trial, Charles as an adult, people come to my father's house. They stab my brother. They cut my father's throat, and he dies on the kitchen floor. To make matters worse, I was found guilty and sentenced to natural life in prison. I was only 17. Now, going to prison is like being teleported to another planet. Humiliating strip searches every day. No visits, no mail, no girlfriends. I became depressed, and I was like, how is my life over when I just got here? My beard and mustache had just connected. I waited all my life for that. And so it was around this time that I met this guy who was also serving a life sentence, a brother by the name of Stephen. And so Stephen stayed to himself, and he sat in a corner, and he was just writing computer code on sheets of paper, a big stack of books. So I was like, what you doing, man? And he says, I'm teaching myself computer codes, and I'm going to get out of prison, and I'm going to start a software company. I said, dude, you don't even have a computer. He said, it don't matter, right? And so eventually, Stephen became a mentor to me and started tutoring me. But something even more special happened. See, Stephen's parents took a liking to me, and they started to visit me and started to support me as if I was their own son. And it was something that touched me. It was very special to have someone love you when your own family wouldn't even come visit you. And so I knew in my heart I was a good person and I can change. And so I decided to write up a plan, not an escape plan. So in this plan, I wanted to educate myself. I wanted to get a high school diploma. I wanted to earn a college degree. I wanted to teach myself Spanish. I wanted to, start a business one day, write a book. I wanted a black drop-top Corvette convertible. But most importantly, I wanted to get free one day. I wanted to earn my freedom and return it to impoverished communities and lead people out of the figurative cave. So all I did was study, go to school, and exercise. But the prison officials would tell me, Inmate Wilson, your place is in here, not out there in the real world. Well, I read hundreds of books. I got my high school diploma. I earned my college degree. I taught myself Spanish, Italian, Mandarin. I started a book club, a career center, a business. I became a mentor. Oh, and I put on 40 pounds of muscle. 10 years had went by and I hadn't wasted a day. And I remember walking the rec yard and this young guy from El Salvador, and he says, man, this is messed up, man. You've been in here 10 years. I see people get out, they come back to prison, man. Why can't you get a chance, man? It just don't make no sense. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on, man. He says, but I never hear you talk about God. He said, maybe that's what's missing in your life. He said, I'm not trying to push religion on you, brother, but I'm just saying that there might be something that's missing. Right? Now, I believed in God, right? I just didn't understand his ways. How could God allow my mom to be raped? How could God allow these stray bullets to take my friends away from me? How could God allow me to be judged just for the color of my skin or where I lived at? And so I said, I'm going to try this. I started praying. I pulled out a spoon. I said, God, can you bend this spoon? Can you show me a sign? I was like, well, how about a voice? So I didn't hear anything, right? And I figured God was busy. After all, it was the war on terror. Bush was destroying our economy. So I figured he was working on those things, right? Bigger problems, right? And so I just pulled out my master plan and I would just read to God. And I would ask God, I said, if you could just show me a sign, and if you let me out of prison, I would dedicate my life to the community, if you just show me a sign. And so I just went back to work. 2 weeks later, my lawyer, Keith Shostak, shows up. Hey, man, what's going on, Chris? I'm like, nothing, man, just grinding, lifting weights, reading books, the same old stuff. He says, the judge wants to see you. She had a change of heart. Now, mind you, I had been denied 5 times before this. And so this was the biggest job interview of my life. So soon I stood before the judge, and I told her everything that I went through as a child. I told her how it felt to see my friends gunned down in front of me. I told her how it felt to watch my mom be violated by a police officer, someone who was supposed to protect us. I talked about what I would do if I got out, but even if you didn't let me out, Your Honor, I would go back to prison and keep grinding because that's who I am. But you really should give me a second chance. She just stared at me for 5 minutes, and I can hear my heart beating. I can see it beating through my shirt. And she just looked at me. She says, you know what, Chris? I'm going to give you a second chance. But here's the deal. You can't get out of prison and just be some regular guy, get a job, and, have a family. You sent me some pretty ambitious stuff. So you got to finish the plan. It's law. And you better not disappoint me. I ended up spending 16 years in prison. I came home. The Edwards family was supporting me. I'm sleeping on my friends' couches, and I needed a job. And then I get a call from my mom. Is this Chris? Oh, my God, how'd you get out? I can't believe you out. Did you break out? I thought you had life. I says, nah, Ma, I got this plan. I got out. I'm on a mission or whatever. And then she started acting weird. And she says, Chris, I want you to know that I love you. Just please remember. I said, okay, Ma, I love you too. Just relax. I got you on speakerphone. And then when I got off the phone, my mom wrote a long letter and took a handful of pills and left this world. So she never even had a chance to see me as a free man or the man that I've become today. So if my mom was here today, if she was out in the audience, I would tell my mom, I've only been home from prison 4 years. I'm the owner of 2 successful social enterprises in Baltimore that create job opportunities for people who need help the most. I would tell my mom that I got a full scholarship at University of Baltimore, and I got 1 more semester before I graduate with my 2nd degree. I would tell my mom that I went from feeling invisible to winning a presidential award and being invited to the White House. Yeah. I would tell my mom that, remember how I used to like Corvettes? Well, I went out and brought one. I would tell my mom, remember how I used to be shy around women? Well, last November, I was riding around with Alicia Keys in Baltimore taking selfies. This is true. But finally, I would tell my mom that not too long ago, I helped a guy who was just like me. A guy who was dealt a bad hand in life. A guy who struggled to take care of his family and his children. A guy who cried when I pulled him close and I told you, brother, I've been through what you've been through, and I'm here and I'm going to help you. I would tell my mom today, this brother has a job and he's feeding his family, and that's who you raised me to be. and I love you. Thank you.